such a wonderful gift.
What's going on out there, everybody? This is Sammy Leggett here, representing TeamJVS, here to give you guys another movie review. I am here to talk about, dare I say, the best stop-motion animated film this year in Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. This is now available on Netflix. I had the luxury of being able to see it much earlier, and I also was graciously invited to the New York premiere, to which, to my great excitement, I was able to actually talk to the legendary director himself, and it was an experience of a lifetime. But not to put too much emphasis on that, as to express that the film, as in and of itself, is one of the best films this year. And I'm gonna go and kind of break that down why. But I will preface it like this. I recently watched, for the first time this year, ironically, is Everything Everywhere All at Once. And it had a very profound effect on me. I all of a sudden kind of stopped in my tracks, and I didn't even review the film. I kind of was just like, I just embraced it. And I was like, I need to see it again. And I plan on seeing it again before I do my official review for it. But everything preceding that, I've seen countless other films. I've seen like Women Talking, which is some of the best screenplay, amazing acting. I've seen Close, one of the best foreign films, probably one of the better films I've seen this year. I was able to check out Avatar, The Way of Water. I mean, there's been so many different films, and I've not reviewed any of them effectively because I'm just soaking it in. And I think what happens as a critic like myself, sometimes you go through process, rinse, repeat, versus soaking it in, embracing it, taking notes, and then, you know, living it, breathing it. And I think that this is another example of that with Pinocchio, because this is not your conventional Pinocchio. This is not for children. Be very clear right now, this is not for children. And it's not to say there's like nudity and excessive violence and stuff like that. There's violence, there's death, there's horrific things that are happening. The implications of life are more effectively terrifying than any physical violence that you can kind of actually really understand and comprehend in most films or TV shows today. The other thing about this story is that they're taking certain elements from Guillermo del Toro's personal life that he's transposed onto this, because the relationship between Geppetto and Pinocchio is unlike anything they've done with previous incarnations before, on paper or, you know, through film or show or anything in between from that medium. But I'm gonna go through some of the actors in this lineup, which is amazing. You got Ewan McGregor playing the role of Jiminy Cricket. You got David Bradley playing the role of Geppetto. You got Gregory Mann playing the role of Pinocchio, and he does an amazing job as it. You got Ron Perlman playing this. I'm not gonna express who he actually is. Very key role in this one. John Turturro plays a role in this. Finn Wolfhard plays the role of Candlewick. You got Kate Blanchett and Tilda Swinton and Christoph Waltz in this. I mean, you got A-list, some of the best in the business and some of the youngest in the business in one incarnated film, but you have to be able to have a vision and a concise understanding of where this story is going to go, because it's been told before. We even have a version of it with Tom Hanks out right now on Disney Plus that you can watch out if you want to. But with this one, I'm going to go in and tell you that the voice acting is amazing. I mean, like, I think that Gregory Mann, like, as a child actor, like, there's a lot of nuances and a lot of things that you can hear, whether it is joy, whether it is fear, whether it is childlike ambition, or, you know, unbiased perspective. Like, you can hear it all through his voice, and there's a lot of his personality coming out and bleeding out through how they're handling the stop animation, which I'll get into that, because that's in and of itself a whole different feat. But then if you go into like Kate Blanchett and Christoph Waltz, or even Tilda Swinton, like, I'll just use Tilda Swinton as an example. Like, when her character comes onto the scene, it changes the whole entire atmosphere. And I think that each character and each voice actor becomes and identifies with what this is on paper, which is really about the comprehension of when love is taken away, how to be able to tangibly accept love, death, and reality all at the same time. But it's never streamlined. It's never like an instant, like it's a progression. Whereas other incarnations of, Pinocchio, it's like Pinocchio is trying to be a real boy. That's it. Like he wants to be a real boy and he wants to make his papa proud. This is very different because in this one, you understand why Geppetto is even creating Pinocchio. And how he relates to Pinocchio is very different as well because it's not an instantaneous connection. There's difference. There's an indifference. Even like certain things that happen to Geppetto early on in the film that I'm going to say this. I think that David Bradley in his performance is very riveting because he has to be able to not only carry the humanistic side of all this, but he's also dealing with the grieving dad aspect. And the grieving dad, a lot of the times, doesn't make the right conscientious choice because they're grieving. They're not cognitively thinking what is right or what is the best thing. They're thinking about the selfish thing, or they're thinking about the emotion that's right there on the tip of their tongue. And a lot of times, Geppetto makes those wrong choices and has to pay for them in so many different ways. And I think that that's from the storytelling standpoint that Patrick McHale and Guillermo del Toro, how they're doing the story and this parallel with fathers and sons and father relationships and what those do, those paradigm shifts. Because even with Finn Wolfhard playing the role of Candlewick, there's a relationship that he has with his dad that immediately, contrasts and kind of is alike with Geppetto and Pinocchio. And I think Finn Wolfhard does a really good job with it because there's an instantaneous like enviousness and connection with Pinocchio that I think that he exemplifies and works with it very well in this one. And I mean, that's just the surface level stuff because at its core, this is still an amazing film, but it's an animated one. And this is where I could go on a tangent, but I'm just going to make it very simple and concise. This is some of the best stop motion ever. And just for context, it took them 1,000 days to film this. And what I mean by 1,000 days, it's not as though, okay, one day they did like, a whole scene that was like 5-10 minutes. No. One day might equal to be 13 seconds. And that's insane. There's a shot of a little monkey that's going and rolling around the city and going and getting on top and going into, the master's cabin. That shot and the camera angles, the cinematography and the set designs and the way that the stop motion has to maneuver around to find the particulars of how to make it feel like the camera is moving, but really is still linear is insane. Never seen anything like it. So you got cinematography that's excellent. Set design, all these different sets, all these different things that it looks like, on paper it could be CG, or it looks like, okay, they just took a smaller top. Like, no, the details. And I've seen it with my own eyes, the raw details of just maybe like dirt on the street or like, uprooted weeds in the brick or like somebody like having something hanging off their shirt, But the other thing that makes this connect so much, and I'm going to make sure I make this clear, is that every single puppet doesn't feel like a puppet. They feel like an actual person because inside, and just using Pinocchio as an example, there's like 1,000 different versions of the face to make sure that every single emotive expression or joy or fear or heartache is seen here, emoted with the body, and expressed onto screen. It is masterful. This is easily a 10 out of 10. Everything else I would talk about would just be gassing this up, and I'm not going to continue to do that. This is the best animated film this year. And again, I've not seen Suzume. I loved Your Name. I have not seen it, so I can't make a direct yay or nay, but for me, from what I've seen, this is the best animated film this year. Dare I say, maybe some of the best in cinema this year as well. And I implore you, go and check out Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Thanks, everybody.
Falling off the top of the moon, I can see starlight.